I think the Daily Telegraph newspaper has really let a lot of people down lately. For a very long time, people in England and all over the world looked at this newspaper as the most important place to get news about the king and queen. People used to call it the royal newspaper because it always told the story of the royal family with respect and truth. But now, it seems like they are just repeating everything that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle want them to say. They are acting like a megaphone for Harry and Meghan's ideas, which some people call propaganda. This means they are telling a story that makes one side look perfect, even if it is not true. A reporter named Victoria Ward was there in Australia to write about the trip. Even though she was actually there watching what happened, her report sounds like it was written by Harry and Meghan's own team. It does not feel like real, honest news from a reporter who is trying to find the facts. Instead, it feels like she is just a part of their special group of friends. People who watch the royals closely say this information is coming straight from the people who work for Harry and Meghan. It is sad because a big newspaper like the Telegraph should be telling the whole truth, not just the parts that a famous couple wants us to hear. The Daily Telegraph wrote a story about the trip to Australia and said it was a giant success. They said it was so good that it would be used as a plan or a blueprint for all their future trips. But at the exact same time they said this, some videos came out that showed something very different. These videos were taken at a special event called the Her Best Life Retreat. In the videos, you can see a room that was supposed to be full of people, but it actually looked very empty. There were only about 50 women there. They were sitting at tables that were made to hold twice as many people. Some of the tables only had 3 people sitting at them. There was a DJ there playing music and filming the event. Usually, a big wellness weekend like this should be loud and full of energy, but it felt quiet, like a small dinner party instead. There is a very big difference between what the Telegraph said happened and what we can actually see with our own eyes in the videos. This big gap is what defines everything we hear about Harry and Meghan. There is the story they want us to believe, which is carefully controlled, and then there is the real record of what actually happened. Both stories are happening at the exact same time, and anyone who wants to look can see the difference for themselves. The words the Telegraph used in their report are very important to look at closely. These words do not just show what Harry and Meghan wanted to tell the world, but they also show how the couple thinks about their own lives and their work. Someone very close to Harry and Meghan told the newspaper while they were in Sydney that they had tested the playbook, and that it worked. A playbook is like a set of rules for a game. They wanted to see if they could act like royals and make money at the same time, even though they are not supposed to do that. This person said they are doing the right thing, even if people want to call it being half in and half out of the royal family. The source said this week gave them confidence that they are on the right path. Another person said this trip could be a map for everything they do in the future. A third person who is a very close friend of Harry said that Harry likes to say, "The truth will always come out." It is very interesting that they use this phrase when so many parts of their trip seem to be hidden or changed to look better than they really were. They use the word truth, while they are also making sure everything looks perfect for the cameras. When Harry says the truth will always come out, he is saying it during a trip that was full of things that were not quite what they seemed. They had witness statements that were written before the events even happened. They listed the clothes Meghan was wearing for sale on a website while she was visiting very sad places, like where a lot of people were killed. They claimed that their events were all sold out before they even started, but we could see that the events were not sold out at all. The retreat room only had about 50 people in it, even though they wanted hundreds to be there. Scientists used computers to count the people in the room, and the count was much lower than what Harry and Meghan claimed. This shows us exactly how their team works. They want to tell a story of success even when the real facts show something else. They claimed that the Her Best Life event made enough money to pay for all their costs. They said the money Meghan got for being there covered the flights, hotels, and bodyguards for their whole team of 9 people. If this is true, it shows that the event was only about making enough money to pay for the trip itself. It did not make a big profit to help pay for their expensive house or their many lawyers. Now we can understand why Prince Harry looked so annoyed and grumpy during the retreat. He looked like he wanted to leave because the room was almost empty. It looked like there were barely 100 women there, and maybe even fewer. After Meghan left the stage, the DJ started filming, and that is when we really got to see how small the crowd was. It is very strange to fly 9 people all the way to Australia just so Meghan can speak for 30 minutes and only make enough money to pay for the plane tickets. Earlier reports said she would be there for much longer, But a news program in Australia called Sunrise said she was only there for about half an hour. She arrived, walked onto the stage, spoke for a little bit, and then she was gone. The women who were there had paid between 2,000 and 3,000 Australian dollars to spend the weekend with her. For all that money, they only got 30 minutes of her time and maybe a quick photo. Then she left. The footage from the DJ showed a ballroom that was way too big for the small number of people who were actually there. Even though they said it was sold out, the room told a very different story. People who look at these things very carefully noticed a special detail about the tables. The tables were set up for 5 people instead of 10 people. 10 people is the normal way to set up a table for a big event. By only putting 5 chairs at each table, they were trying to make the room look more crowded than it really was. More tables means more of the floor is covered, so it doesn't look as empty on camera. But even with this trick, some tables only had 3 or 4 people. On the Sunrise morning show, the reporters showed the Duke and Duchess of Sussex saying goodbye to Sydney from a place called Coogee. They called it a whirlwind tour because it was so fast. It only lasted 4 days and they only went to 2 cities. The main event was the wellness retreat at a big hotel, but Meghan was hardly there. Using fewer people at each table is a way to try and fool the audience. Even though they told the public that the tickets were all gone in just a few days, the pictures and the computer analysis showed only about 50 people who actually paid. They said 300 people would be there, but only 50 showed up. This is a very big difference. One person who was at the event even said out loud that she did not pay for her ticket. She said her neighbor, who works at the hotel, gave it to her for free. Giving away free tickets is something people do when they cannot sell enough tickets for an event. They do this to make the room look full so it doesn't look embarrassing. But when you give away tickets for free, you don't make any money. This makes it very hard to believe that they really made enough money to pay for their whole team to fly to Australia. If you look really closely at the videos, you can see that the tables only have plates and forks for half of the seats. They did this on purpose to hide the empty spaces. This event seems like a very big failure. If some of those 50 people were there for free, then even fewer than 50 people actually paid to see Meghan. This makes the amount of money they made very small. We don't know for sure if they broke even on their costs, but the low number of people makes it seem very unlikely. It is hard to run a successful business when nobody shows up to buy what you are selling. There was also a man named Markus Anderson who was with them the whole time. He's a very important person at a club called Soho House. He went with Harry and Meghan to many of their meetings and events in Australia. People started asking why he was always there and what his job was. At the retreat, he sat right in the middle of Harry and Meghan on the stage. It looked very strange to see him between them like that. At a rugby game, Meghan was seen laughing and talking a lot with Markus, while Harry looked like he was not part of the conversation. He looked lonely or bored. They also went to a private dinner, and Markus was there too. People who saw them said it was very unusual for a business friend to be so close to them all the time. At the same time, some guests at the retreat were saying they got in for free. One woman said she got 2 free passes from her neighbor at the hotel. There is also a question about a person online who is a big fan of Meghan. People wonder if she was also in the room. It seems like the whole event was put together with a lot of secrets and strange arrangements. The person who organized the retreat is named Gemma. It was reported that she owes a lot of money to the Australian government in taxes. People said she owes $500,000. When you pick a business partner, it tells people a lot about you. Usually, a smart business person would not pick someone who has big money problems and owes the government so much, unless there was another reason they chose her. Reports say that Markus Anderson was the one who helped set up the deal with Gemma. We don't know if Markus made money from this deal himself. Another part of the trip involved a website called One Off. This is where Meghan listed the clothes she wore on the trip so people could buy them. This turned her visits to hospitals and memorials into a way to sell things. Some people noticed that when this website first started, it had a lot of famous stars like Kendall Jenner and Bella Hadid. But since then, almost all the big stars have left. It started with 100 famous people, but now there are only about 28. The website itself was described as clunky and slow. It did not work very well. This is a pattern we see with Harry and Meghan. They start something big with a lot of noise, but then it does not stay successful for very long. Their business history shows this happening over and over again. They had a big deal with Spotify that ended, and a big deal with Netflix that had to be changed. They also had a deal with a talent agency called WME that ended. Now they are using this one-off website, but it seems to be failing too. Even though the Telegraph says the tour was a blueprint For the future, they are not looking at the facts. A blueprint like this means that Harry and Meghan want to keep doing royal tour, even though they are not working for the king. They want to use their royal titles to get special treatment and then sell things like clothes while they are doing it. The newspaper says this is a brave new world of royalty based in California. They think it can last a long time. But the real question is what the king and the rest of the royal family will do about it. If they don't do anything, then Harry and Meghan will just keep going. If King Charles does not stop them, they will keep using their titles to make money. Prince William is said to be very unhappy about this and wants to take action when he becomes king. In the past, Meghan was heard saying that she could not believe she was not getting paid for her royal tour in 2018. This is a very important thing to remember. It shows that her biggest problem with being a royal was not about the things she said in her big interviews. It was actually about money. She wanted to be paid for the work she was doing. Now, in this new version of her life, she has found a way to get paid. She visits a hospital and then puts her outfit on a website for people to buy. She visits a place where a tragedy happened and uses it to sell clothes. She holds a retreat where people have to pay a lot of money to see her for a few minutes. This is how she is getting the payment she thought she deserved back in 2018. But doing it this way makes it look like she is using sad situations and sick people to make herself rich. This is a very big moral problem. It feels wrong to many people to turn charity work into a business where you make money for yourself. A good way to think about this is like the Coca-Cola company. Coca-Cola is a very famous brand that everyone trusts. If someone else started a company called Coca-Cola with a K, it would be a competing brand. If the new company used a logo that looked just like the real one, people would get confused. They wouldn't know which one was the real, high-quality drink. This is what is happening to the royal family. The real royal family is like the original Coca-Cola. Harry and Meghan are like the new brand that is trying to look like the real thing to make money. If people can't tell the difference, it hurts the reputation of the real king and queen. The Telegraph is reporting on the K brand as if it were the same as the C brand. They are saying it is great just because the people selling it say so. But the pictures of the empty room show that the product is not as good as they say it is. King Charles has a big decision to make. He has been told by many people that he needs to act now because things will only get worse. Harry and Meghan's other businesses are failing, so they need this royal brand to make money. King Charles has a way of handling things where he tries not to get involved. He thinks that if he does anything, Harry and Meghan will just use it to make more books or movies where they act like victims. He thinks that by doing nothing, he is doing the least amount of damage. But this might be a mistake. In the short term, it keeps things quiet. But in the long term, it lets Harry and Meghan set a new rule where they can do whatever they want with their titles. It makes it harder to take the titles away later because they have been using them for so long without anyone stopping them. This leaves a big mess for Prince William to clean up when he becomes king. William sees this very clearly. He knows that doing nothing is costing the family a lot of respect. He is ready to act when he has the power to do so. The Telegraph's report mentioned that the palace told other newspapers they won't touch the titles because they don't want Harry and Meghan to feel like victims. But if you have a competitor using your brand name to sell a fake product, you would usually sue them to make them stop. Harry and Meghan are in a very dangerous place, but they don't seem to realize it. They are living in a dream world where they think everything is going great. But their businesses are failing and they are running out of ways to make money. They need the royal family's name to stay famous. This is why the king needs to pay attention to this red flag. If he doesn't act, they will just keep doing more of these fake tours, and each time it will get a little bit worse and a little bit more about money. The real record of the Australia trip is very clear. It shows about 50 women in a room built for 300. It shows tables set for 5 people instead of 10. It shows Harry looking like he wanted to run away. It shows Meghan only staying for 30 minutes. It shows her changing her clothes on her website after people got mad at her for selling fashion at a memorial site. It shows her website losing all its famous friends. These are the facts, and they don't need a fancy story to explain them. The facts say the trip was not a success. The source for Harry and Meghan said, "We tested the playbook, it worked." This is a very honest thing to say because it shows what they are really trying to do. They are trying to see if they can have the half-in, half-out life that the Queen told them they could not have. They want to do royal things without following royal rules. They want the fame and the access to important people, but they also want to get paid. By their own rules, they think it worked because they got a lot of attention in the news. They think it worked because they got to visit hospitals and speak on stages. But if you look at the business side, it did not work. They did not make a lot of money. They did not help the people they were visiting in a real way. They only used them as a background for their own commercial goals. They showed that their model is not actually sustainable at a large scale because not enough people are willing to pay for it. Meghan's old comment about not being paid is the key to understanding everything. She sees celebrity value as something you must turn into money. You get people's attention, and then you take the money from that attention. But the rules of the royal family are there to stop this from happening. Royal work is supposed to be about service, not about making yourself rich. When you turn a visit to sick children into a way to sell a dress, the visit is no longer about the children. It is about the dress. This is exactly what Queen Elizabeth was afraid of back in 2020. She said they could not use the word royal for their business because it would be disrespectful to the institution. Even though she is gone, her name is still on their titles. They are still using those titles to run their business. They even have a plan to bring this model to Britain soon. They want to use the Invictus Games as a reason to do the same thing in England that they just did in Australia. Prince William's team thinks this is very dangerous for the monarchy. They know that the royal brand only works if people trust that it is about service and not about money. When you see the titles Duke and Duchess of Sussex, you should think of people who help others. You should not think of people who are trying to sell you clothes or tickets to a retreat. This corrupts the brand. It hurts the future of the monarchy for William and his children, George, Charlotte, and Louis. Their future depends on the royal family staying special and separate from the world of business and celebrity. The Australian tour was a moment where we could see the brand being damaged in real time. The king is not doing anything to stop it right now, but the future will have to fix it. The empty chairs and the tables with only 3 people are the real truth of what happened. The honest record is very different from the managed story. The managed story says the trip was a huge success. The honest record shows 50 people in a big room and a quick 30-minute speech. The honest record shows that the public in Australia didn't really show up to see them. There were empty barricades where crowds were supposed to be. One woman on the beach didn't even turn her head to look at them as they walked by. This shows that people are becoming indifferent. They don't care as much as they used to. The Telegraph chose to tell the managed story, but the honest record is there for anyone to see. The truth is in the table settings. The truth is in the video the DJ filmed after Meghan left. The truth is in the account of the neighbor who got free tickets because the hotel couldn't sell them. The idea of California-based royalty is not a good thing for the royal family. It is a description of something that has lost its integrity. Real royalty is defined by unconditional service. It is about showing up because it is your duty, not because you are getting a paycheck. It is about putting the people you serve at the center of everything. California-based royalty is the opposite. It is about putting yourself at the center and using the people you serve as props for your business. It is the very thing the Sandringham Agreement was supposed to prevent. Now that they are bringing this playbook to Britain, the royal family will have to face it once again. They will be much closer to the real palaces and the real working royals. The British public will get to see the playbook in action up close. Whether they like it or not is yet to be seen, but the record from Australia shows that the playbook is not the success they claim it is. The record is written in the empty seats and the 30-minute appearances. It is a record of a business trying to look like a monarchy and failing to be either one. When Harry and Meghan return to the United Kingdom, they will try to use the same plan they used in Australia. They will try to visit hospitals and veterans and act like they are on an official tour. They will have their own photographers to take perfect pictures, and they will try to sell their clothes and their brand. They will be right there in the middle of everything that the real royal family is doing. This will be a very big test for the king and for Prince William. In Australia, they were far away, but in England, they will be right next door. The people who watch the news will have to decide if they want the real version of royalty or the commercial version from California. The Australian tour showed that the commercial version is struggling. It showed that when you take away the mystery and the service, there isn't much left that people want to pay for. The blueprint has been announced, but the blueprint is based on a trip that didn't actually work. The summer will show us what happens next, but the truth of the empty ballroom in Australia will always be a part of the story. In the end, the Daily Telegraph can say whatever they want, but they cannot change what happened. They can call it a success, but the pictures show it was a failure. They can call it a blueprint, but a blueprint for an empty room is not a very good plan. The real history of April 2026 will remember the tables with 3 people and the 30-minute visit. It will remember the murching at the massacre site and the free tickets from the hotel neighbor. These are the things that stay in people's minds. The managed story is just a story, but the honest record is the truth. Harry likes to say that the truth will always come out, and in this case, he is right. The truth came out in the footage and the facts of the trip. The playbook was tested, and the result was clear for everyone to see. It did not work. Now we just have to wait and see if the royal family will finally do something about it before the brand is damaged even more. The summer is coming, and the next part of the story is about to begin. The institution has a choice to make, and the whole world is watching to see what that choice will be.